Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today I've got a weekly news roundup for Battlefield 5. There is a ton of news for this game every single week, and this week was no exception with multiple new dev talks. We've got a new trailer for maps, we've got a whole bunch of tweets and interesting info about what's being worked on and changed for the final release of the game. And this week in particular talked a lot about map design. The Twitter takeover was from a level designer. We had a dev talk today actually talking about Twisted Steel and all the work that went into that and how it changed over the course of time and what the developers wanted to do with it. And we also had a Reddit AMAA focused on map design and map development with some really interesting questions asked. I mean, there's a ton of information here. Depending on how deep you want to get into it, I'm just going to talk about what I think was the most interesting from this week. Let's start off with a blog post that launched on Monday, which talked about the in-game economy and basically how the progression and currency system is going to work in Battlefield 5. This is an important topic to discuss right away because obviously they don't want a repeat of Star Wars Battlefront 2, where players felt like some of the coolest items or the most important upgrades you could get in the game were locked behind a paywall or were really encouraged to be using real-world money in order to unlock in-game advantages. The blog post has certainly put this to rest with Battlefield 5 without a shadow of a doubt. Any in-game upgrades, advantages, weapon unlocks will only be attainable through in-game progression currency. So they'll call it company coin. As you play the game, you'll earn company coin as you gain experience and new levels and stuff like that. And you can choose to use that company coin to unlock new progression tree items, or you can use it to unlock new skins and cosmetic upgrades for your soldier. Now later, after launch, not at launch, there will be a currency that you can purchase with real world money. This currency can only be used to unlock cosmetic items. So once again, to reiterate, there will be no way to exchange money for an in-game advantage over other players. So just to put that to rest, and the big snafu that Battlefront 2 ran into will not be in Battlefield 5. I personally think this is a great system moving forward, getting rid of premium, not dividing the player base, adding a lot more value to each new content and map that comes out down the road is awesome. And if you can create cool enough cosmetic items and enough drive from the player base to really want to distinguish yourself on the battlefield, that will create in-game sales for really high-level cosmetic stuff. This is the same approach that like Overwatch takes to their game, and I think it's a good approach, and hopefully they can create a good functional in-game economy that warrants creating more content for this game post-launch. The blog post also tries to detail some of the progression and ranking system. I mean, there's an overall player rank in the game, then there's individual class ranks, then there's weapon and vehicle ranks, which will dictate what kind of unlocks and upgrades you can do for your weapons. And then there's also chapter ranks once the Tides of War launches, which will unlock new cosmetics and new awards for you as well. So there's a lot of different rank ups and progression systems built into this game. It's probably going to be a little bit overwhelming at first, but again, it's going to be one of those things that players are probably going to have to sink about 10 to 20 hours into the game before they start to fully understand all the progression mechanics. Let's move on to the Reddit AMAA directed at level design. One of the more interesting questions was asking about adaptive camo and whether that will be returning from Battlefield 4. If you don't remember from Battlefield 4, there was an adaptive camo option for like vehicles and stuff, which would pick a camo that was supposed to blend in best with that map's environment. With Battlefield 1, this went away with vehicles and you just kind of had to manually change your vehicle camo, although people didn't have too many vehicle camos, so it didn't really seem to matter that much. But it's clear that vehicle cosmetics are going to be a much bigger part of Battlefield 5, so it would make sense to have something like this, but unfortunately it doesn't sound like we're getting adaptive camo in Battlefield 5. So if you want to blend in with your environment more on each map, you'll have to manually change your camo options from the deployment screen or something like that, which is doable. It's just a little bit more busy work. Another question asked if there was any chance that we'll be seeing remastered Battlefield 1942 maps in Battlefield 5. The answer given here was that they're trying to recapture a lot of the feelings or the elements of these iconic maps from Battlefield 1942, but in some of the lesser known battles or locations. Like Devastation in Rotterdam is supposed to reflect the feeling that you got from playing Berlin in Battlefield 1942. And Twisted Steel is supposed to reflect a lot of similarities between Market Garden. And I totally get that, and I think they've probably achieved that to an extent. I hope they just don't get away from actually doing the iconic battles in Battlefield 5. And it seemed like a lot of people in the comments really wanted the iconic battles nonetheless. Even if some of the current lesser known battles do reflect the ambiance or the feeling, I would certainly still like to see it. And then finally, at the end of the answer, I think the most disappointing part of the response was that the specific developer said they had no interest in redesigning Wake Island because they had done it 3 times already and they were very bored of it. But based on my feeling of playing Wake Island, and I think the rest of the community, everybody wants to play a remastered version of Wake Island in Battlefield 5. So even if you've remastered it 3 times, maybe it's time for a different developer to take a crack at it, because I would certainly love to play that map. There's a reason why many popular first-person shooters like Call of Duty remaster these iconic maps over and over again, because the community loves them, they like the gameplay, and they like the nostalgia from them. So Wake Island definitely checks all those boxes. There weren't too many other interesting tidbits about the maps revealed during the AMA. Obviously, most questions will come up when players have played the maps. You know, they'll want to know about map design, map balance, and then what's coming in the future, which for the most part, developers can't talk about. They can only sort of hint at it. People were asking if there would be naval maps in the upcoming Tides of War stuff. Obviously, that's a big question. People want to know about the naval warfare, and they just can't talk about it. And I'd imagine, to be honest, a lot of it's going to be dependent on how successful Battlefield 5 is. Something interesting that came out of the news this week, though, was that the practice range will actually be available to play with multiple people. So if you want to join a practice range and test out mechanics against other players, you absolutely can, which is pretty cool. You know, I spent a lot of time in Battlefield 4 and stuff doing tutorials by getting friends to join into empty servers with me and trying it out, but it didn't always go according to plan because other players would join in and then kind of mess with tests and stuff like that. So that's kind of exciting for me, and it'll also be available to allow players to practice maybe multi-seat vehicles together too. There's a nice clip from the Arctic Fjord map showing off the lighting updates that they made to the interiors of buildings. This was a pretty big issue, was visibility on the map during the alpha and beta. It was probably one of the #1 bits of feedback from a lot of players, was just player visibility, too much snow, and really crazy dark interiors. So this little Twitter clip shows that they've made a lot of progress and a lot of work. Apparently, it's kind of going through by hand and looking at each individual area of a map and adding in lights where it needs more light and taking away where it doesn't need as much. So it's good to see them do a big final lighting pass on this, and it's encouraging for the other maps in the game. Hopefully they'll be handcrafted in every little nook and cranny when it comes to lighting. Now, of course, probably the most exciting event from this week was the new Maps trailer showing off all 8 of the launch maps, and then also a little bit of a glimpse at the Panzerstorm map that's coming slightly after launch. This actually puts us just about in line with the map content we got from Battlefield 1 at launch. Battlefield 1 actually launched with 9 maps and then got the Giant Shadow after launch, which I personally think was kind of a crap map. But anyway, that's sort of how they bolstered their full map count to 10. So we're getting 8 at launch and then 9 later on. So it'll be a similar situation to BF1, just one less map in that regard. But I gotta say, the quality of the maps from this trailer look outstanding, and I got pretty much the same feeling from just about anybody watching the map trailer. They look phenomenal. Like, just grass in general looks so much better than it has in previous Battlefield games. Vegetation, particle effects, lighting. Anyone who is worried that this is somehow a reskinned version of Battlefield 1, I think will notice a massive visual change upon playing the game. There really is a substantial upgrade. Even if it is in the amount of fidelity and details that are added in each map, it's clear that DICE is pushing the visual envelope here. Not to sound too marketing terminology here, but I can't think of any other way to describe that. This game just looks hell of a lot better than the previous game, which already looked incredible. So it always blows my mind that DICE is able to push their games visually, even though they're already at the top of the food chain when it comes to the best looking shooter. And then for those of you interested in any Battlefield 1 news, there's going to be 25 more free battle packs, double XP weekend as usual. So if you haven't been taking advantage of the free battle packs that have been coming out in Battlefield 1, there's been like over 100 in the last week or so. Which should have given you a ton of elite skins and all that stuff. And then of course the Road to Battlefield 5 progression system. You can still get your 2 unique paratrooper skins for Battlefield 5 if you haven't done so already. It really doesn't take that long. A few hours of gaming in either Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 1 will get you there. Anyway, that kind of wraps it up for the news of Battlefield 5 this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. There isn't going to be a news wrap up next week, but there will be a lot of Battlefield 5 content as the game is coming out on the 9th, and who knows, you may even see some earlier content from me around that time. So just keep your eyes and ears peeled. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing out.